Hey there, Heather, ho there. It's Jeff Coder Diamond welcoming you to yet another review video as we will review the round of 32 in the NCAA tournament and preview the Sweet 16. So, in this round, we had 16 venues host 16 games. The winners of those games will go into the super regionals, if you will, the Sweet 16, where they play either in Arizona, that being the Fiesta Bowl, the Rose Bowl, that being in California, the Orange Bowl in lovely Florida, or the Sugar Bowl in Louisiana. So basically, of course, those were the groups, the groupings and all that. So I'm going to go through the groups one at a time and tell you about the story. Now, it was weird because this year they decided to have one full day of the brackets. So, if memory serves me correctly, the Orange Bowl bracket went first. They played their games last Wednesday. The Rose Bowl bracket was on Thursday. The Sugar Bowl on Friday, and the Fiesta Bowl bracket on Saturday, meaning that those four matchups of the teams that would meet in those stadiums would face each other. So first off was the Orange Bowl bracket. And the Orange Bowl bracket was basically the upsets bracket because 6 of the top 8 seeds in that bracket lost their first game. The only 2 that survived were the number 1 seed LSU Tigers and the number 3 seed UCF Knights. LSU, no, sorry, not LSU, the Clemson Tigers. Clemson crushed number 16 Iowa State, whereas number 3 Central Florida had to deal with a tough number 14 seed UCLA team and had to go to triple overtime to win the game. So the Orange Bowl bracket started. The number 1 seed Clemson Tigers would face number 9 LSU in the Battle of the Tigers at the Independence Bowl in Shreveport, Louisiana. And everyone thought LSU was going to win because, Louisiana, LSU. LSU was not granted home field advantage because they didn't play anywhere near Shreveport. They were in Baton Rouge. So basically they played, and Clemson did very well. It was a tight game, 13-6, and the number 1 seed Clemson Tigers proved good, and they are going into Miami, Florida. So they're going to the Orange Bowl in Miami. They will face the unbelievable story, one of the most unbelievable stories, the Cleveland University Soldiers. The first time Cleveland got into the tournament, they won a play-in against Alaska and Dakotas to get into the tournament. Cleveland, of course, took care of App State 14-0 at Kyle Field, home of the Texas A&M Aggies. Cleveland would take on the number 12 seed Texas Longhorns, who basically narrowly beat A&M 14-11. So Cleveland versus Texas A&M was a huge one. So Cleveland versus Texas, and everyone thought Texas was going to win. Well, they were up 12-10, but Cleveland got down the field. They decided to kick a 40-yard field goal with like 15 seconds left. Game tire, and he broke through. Cleveland made it 13-12. Texas had a chance at the last second to score, and they missed. Cleveland shocking the world, winning 13-12 over Texas. Reminds me of about 4 years ago when Empire State took down Texas. That's, of course, the BSU group, to get to the Sweet 16. And then they beat, I believe it was Marshall they beat. And then Empire lost to A&M in the quarterfinals, but it was a close one. So, yeah, that was huge. So now it's Cleveland versus Clemson in a battle royal. Clemson looks like the heavy favorites. On the other side of the bracket, first of all, Northwestern took on UTEP at the Sun Bowl. The Sun Bowl technically was where the UTEP played. So basically, UTEP got the home game against Northwestern. And everyone thought, well, UTEP definitely will win on their home turf. UTEP shocked the world and themselves by beating Oklahoma State, the 2 seed, by 10 points. Whereas Northwestern rolled over our guys, Canada State, 42-13. We were hoping UTEP would win and get revenge. Well, unfortunately, despite being on home turf, UTEP lost 14-10 to the Northwestern Wildcats. So Northwestern, even though Denson was hurt for the fourth quarter, survived. Northwestern is in the Sweet 16. They will face the other team that didn't get upset. The number 3 seed Central Florida Knights, who had to go through a triple overtime thrill against UCLA, took on Iowa, who took down Boise. That was at the Capital One Stadium in Orlando. Not UCF Stadium, but in UCF's hometown of Orlando. So basically, everyone thought that Iowa was going to make mincemeat of UCF, including the defense, because of the defense. Well, The joke was on Iowa as they lost 22-0. Central Florida shocks everyone by beating Iowa 22-0. The bad news, though, is that Charles White, the running back who transferred from USC, basically injured his ankle. He's out for the tournament. So Central Florida, I believe, is the only team. Yeah, they're the only team in the Orange Bowl bracket to carry an injury into the Sweet 16. So UCF does not have their star running back against Northwestern, and Northwestern does with Audrey Denson. Some say that Northwestern might pull one out of the hat, and Clemson might have Northwestern. That, of course, that'd be in Miami. Central Florida will actually be having a lot of fans in Florida because, you know, the state of Florida. Now came the Rose Bowl bracket. And the Rose Bowl bracket saw only 2 upsets. And the 4 and 5 seeds, that being Houston and Marshall, they were out. However, those 2 winners, the teams that upset them, Baylor, who had to go through an overtime 34-31 thriller against Houston, and Colorado, who took down Marshall, faced each other. Baylor was given home field because, you know, it was at Baylor Stadium. And Baylor beat Colorado 17-7, a big win for Baylor. That's the good news. The bad news is RG3 suffered an ankle injury. He's out till the Final Four at the earliest. So RG3 will be out for the next 2 games. So if Baylor wants to do something in Pasadena at the Rose Bowl bracket, they have to do it minus RG3. Although Jonathan Williams, the backup, had thrown for the 2 touchdowns needed to beat Colorado. And Baylor will take on another Cinderella team, if you will, West Virginia, who took care of Auburn, the defending runners-up in the tournament, nearly 14-11. They took on the number 1 seed, Ohio State University, at the Ohio State football field. OSU crushed NC State 42-7. Everyone thought Ohio State obviously would win at home, and they're the 1 seed. Well, unfortunately, they choked. West Virginia with a big 17-13 win. And some say West Virginia might actually get to the quarterfinals because Baylor doesn't really have a quarterback. Although Jonathan Williams, as I said, took down Colorado, but Colorado is not as big as West Virginia. So we got that. In the other half of the draw, number 2, Bama took on number 7, Georgia Southern. Bama crushed Hawaii 39-0 at the Peach Bowl in Atlanta, whereas Georgia Southern beat Army 7-3 in a ho-hum game. Georgia Southern looked like they wanted to give Bama what for, and they did. The good news is Georgia Southern gave up only 16 points to Bama. The bad news, they only scored 6 themselves, but it was the first 6 points Bama gave up. So 16-6. Despite the fact that they didn't have Julio Jones at wide receiver, they won. But good news for Bama, Julio is back in the lineup for the round of 16 game against USC. USC basically getting the lure of the Rose Bowl on it. They hosted their own bracket. They took down Central Michigan in the first round and had to deal with Air Force, who took care of Louisville. Air Force tried their option game and failed miserably, despite the fact that the score was 13-6 at the end of it. So USC won. They didn't have Keyshawn Johnson or OJ Simpson, so they lost one of their best wide receivers and their best running back for that game. The good news is that Keyshawn is healthy enough. He'll be back on the team. The bad news is OJ will be missing for USC, and they need a running attack against Bama. So Bama and USC is too tough to call, but I think Bama might shock the world. I think Bama could take care of West Virginia and get their own path to it. And a lot of people say Bama should have been a 1 seed, but because of their simulated loss to Georgia, they weren't 7-0 like Wyoming was. All right, so that's the Rose Bowl bracket. Now came the Sugar Bowl bracket. This was the bracket with the overall number 1 seed, Notre Dame Fighting Irish. They took on Nebraska. Notre Dame on home turf took care of Memphis by 13, whereas Nebraska needed overtime to take care of South Carolina. Everyone thought Notre Dame had it, and that's what I thought. Sadly, though, Notre Dame only scored 3 points in a brutal 13-3 loss to the Huskers. Nebraska is one of the best teams around. Nebraska will now have to deal with their Big Ten rivals, Penn State. Penn State was the 13th seed in the Oregon bracket. They took care of Ohio University, not Ohio State, but Ohio Bobcats, 37-14, whereas their opponents for the second round, Oregon, took care of Virginia Tech 20-3. Oregon had home field, technically, by seeding and by, field. But Oregon only could put up 7 points. It's Penn State with a big 21-7 win. Penn State does not have any injuries, neither does Nebraska. So both teams will be clean cut and all that. Penn State does have a plus 37 point differential, which could be all the difference for the betting favorites. And in the other part of the Sugar Bowl bracket, another Big Ten team, Indiana, at the Middle City Bowl in Detroit. They narrowly beat Mississippi State by a touchdown. Bowling Green came from behind in the fourth quarter to shock Empire State by a point. Everyone thought that basically Indiana lost their strong safety, Quinn Buckner. And yes, Quinn Buckner did play football and basketball. Quinn Buckner, their strong safety, who's basically out to the Final Four. Everyone thought, well, basically Bowling Green and John Beck will do their best to pass the ball over everyone's heads. Sadly, though, Bowling Green had nothing. Zilch. No points in that game against Indiana. Indiana wins 23-0. Well, they're the 2 seed, but still. Indiana will now have to deal with the defending champion Georgia Bulldogs. They were the 2019-20 champions, and now they want to go back-to-back. They took care of Nevada on their own turf, 20-7. Pitt had a tough time with Louisiana Tech, only winning by a field goal. So the writing was on the wall that Georgia was going to win. Well, Pitt was actually doing well. Pitt was up 19-14, and Georgia had a chance. After a spinning catch by Lindsey Scott, they got to the 30 with 3 seconds left, and then Eric Sire threw a perfect pass to Hines Ward, who was uncovered, and Hines Ward snuck into the end zone. Touchdown, Georgia. They beat Pitt on the final play, and Pitt got bit because last year, remember, Louisiana Lafayette almost Hail Married them, but then they got one back. It was one of the best finishes of all time. And then, of course, well, now you got Indiana, Georgia. Now, Georgia's outside linebacker, Browning, is out for the tournament. So Georgia may have some issues with their guy. And Indiana doesn't have Buckner. So one key guy per defense is out. But I think Georgia can probably win and take down Penn State. Now comes the Fiesta Bowl bracket that was held last Saturday. First off, number 9, Florida, who shocked Brigham Young by a field goal in Las Vegas at the Las Vegas Bowl, took on Louisiana Lafayette, who actually did great defensively against the number 1 seed Wyoming Cowboys, only giving up 3 points. Louisiana Lafayette was hoping to get to the second round. Remember, last year they had the first round game 1 against Pitt, but Pitt came back with a Hail Mary. So Lafayette was looking for a golden chance, but they couldn't find it. They only scored 3 miserable points. Florida wins 21-3. So basically, Florida gets in. Before I tell you who Florida's opponent is, because, the last matchup, let's go to Miami versus Cincy in the Aloha Bowl in Hawaii. Miami, number 3, took down number 14, Troy, 14-3, whereas Cincy took care of Florida Atlantic 21-7. So the Hurricanes took on the Bearcats. Miami, surprise. I think this is the first time in a while we've had a team win their first 2 games by the same score. They won 14-3 against Troy. Now they beat Cincy 14-3. The only problem is Clinton Portis' injury means he's not going to be in the round of 16 game. So Miami's running attack was actually sheltered against Cincy. But the final 2 games of the round of 32 are epics. First off, you had UAB on their home turf, who took the number 2 seed in the Fiesta Bowl bracket. They took care of Kent easily, 17-7. Liberty got lucky against Navy, winning 10-3. So UAB Liberty. UAB has a 24-0 lead after in the third quarter. And basically everyone thought, well, that's easy. UAB will take on Miami and probably get crushed by the Hurricanes. But then something strange happens. Liberty scores a touchdown, makes it 24-7. No big deal. And then they score touchdown. And then in the last few seconds of the game, regulation, they kick a field goal to tie the game, send it overtime. Liberty gets first touch, they get a touchdown. So now UAB has to match that, and they didn't. Liberty shocks the world. The first time they're actually in this tournament, that's the 7th seed, they're in the round of 16, and guess what? They get Miami. So Liberty will take that, but of course Miami is no couch potato. Meanwhile, the last game of the round of 32 was Arkansas versus Washington. from Husky Stadium. Washington, the home team for that, the 5 seed took care of North Texas 13-3, whereas Arkansas had to go to overtime to take care of Oklahoma, who were the 4 seed, 20-17. So basically, everyone thought that Arkansas, who were the all-time champions, who somehow did it because of despite 4 or 5 major injuries, was going to fall at Husky Stadium, and they nearly did. The score was 21-21 with about 6 seconds left. Arkansas failed. They had a fourth goal at the 1, but they figured they might as well kick the field goal and get the 3 points and force Washington to match it. So they decided over the field goal, and for some strange reason, they blocked Steve Little's attempt, which meant Washington ran down the clock and got the game to overtime, prolongation. But in overtime, Arkansas got the ball first. A nice pass to Donald Young in the end zone, touchdown Arkansas. Washington has the match. They didn't. Arkansas wins again in overtime. I think that's the first time I've heard of a team start off their 2 tournament games by going to overtime, both times. So Arkansas will now have to deal with their SEC rivals, the Florida Gators. No major injuries for Arkansas yet. That's great. But Florida does look like they could take down Arkansas. Someone has to take down Arkansas. I know they're my team and all that, but like hell, you can't win 2 straight tournaments. So I'll just give you a quick close-up of what's been happening and all that. Sorry about my pages and all that. Sometimes it does that. Look at curves. So yeah, so basically you could see the scribbles and all that. So the tournaments will resume again tomorrow, Tuesday, December 22nd, with games in the Sugar and Rose Bowl bracket. Now I know those 2 teams don't 2 brackets won't face each other, but they start those games. So 2 games in New Orleans and 2 games in Pasadena. And then the Orange Bowl and Fiesta Bowl bracket will be Wednesday, December 23rd. So they'll be ready to go in Tempe and in Miami. The quarterfinals will be on Boxing Day, Saturday, December 26th. The lineup will be Sugar, Rose, Orange, Fiesta. Sugar Bowl sometimes used to be at 1 o'clock in the afternoon on New Year's Day, but Sugar goes first, then the Rose Bowl in its traditional 5 o'clock slot. The Orange Bowl at 8:30 and the Fiesta Bowl at 10 o'clock. So yeah, so it's going to be interesting. And then the Final Four in Dallas at the Cotton Bowl, the old Cotton Bowl Stadium. Wednesday, December 29th will be the big day, right? 30th. Oh, it is the 30th. Okay, that's right. Wednesday the 30th will be the semifinals, and then the championship game on Saturday, January 2nd from Dallas. Don't miss it. Who knows? Will there be a Texas team in? I think there are no Texas teams left, are they? Yeah, I think every Texas-based team is gone. You got a team from Pennsylvania, Nebraska, Alabama, California, Indiana, Georgia. Oh, Baylor's Texas, yeah. Baylor from Texas, West Virginia, Cleveland from Ohio, Clemson from South Carolina, say Florida, but that's wrong. Liberty from South Carolina. I think they're South Carolina, Liberty is. I can't remember. No, Virginia. Liberty's from Virginia. They'll take on a team from Florida, Miami. You got a team from Illinois, from Northwestern. You got Central Florida, like a Florida team. And then you got Arkansas and Florida. So Florida's got 3 teams in one group. So basically, yeah. So Florida has 3 teams still. And maybe they'll be the state with the championship belt coming to the Sunshine State. Who knows? Who cares? Hopefully COVID-19 has not affected a lot of people. But anyway, thanks for watching. Have yourself a good day.